right, all right, all right. Aloha Friday Live, everybody. Thank you for being with me this Friday, taking time from your busy day to join us. Today, we have a very special two-time guest because we've had to redo this again, but Adriana Rosales, my favorite publisher, she's done a lot of great things here in the last several years and has been a pivotal part of making dreams of being an author come true. Adriana, welcome to the show again, and thank you for being with me.
Thanks for having me, Enrique. This is going to be fun. I know it.
Well, we
get a this is our take two.
right. We get a second chance at making this great. The last time was informative, and a lot of people had a lot of comments. But today, I want to give you the floor, pick up where we left off, kind of in a way, but bring us through your evolution of getting to maybe some of your history, getting to becoming a publisher, because that's not something that you just snap your finger and then bam, you are. So I would love to hear that, some of your backdrop, and then into where you're doing today.
Sure, absolutely. So as you know, I started with before the pandemic, I was heavily invested in doing a lot of leadership conferences and speaking on stage. And like a lot of us who were in that industry, our business models just shifted from one day to another, right? I had my entire agenda scheduled for the year during before the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, it was basically having to reassess and take into consideration that my business model was not bulletproof, and adjusted. And in a moment of inspiration, I said, what do I know? What do I really enjoy doing? What do I love doing? And the key question was, how can I help the masses? And I thought, hey, Latinos, I had already published several books, and I said, why don't I help women publish? And I started looking at the data and the statistics, and they were not positive when it comes to big publishing houses publishing Latinos. So, and I wanted to help women, and I wanted to, and what I ended up doing was I developed this community, in a private community in Facebook, to get as many writers and all those aspiring authors that wanted to publish in anthologies. And so we started this Latinas 100 community, initially with and for women. And then now we're right now working on our fourth anthology years later, but a lot of men also were interested. And in the interim of developing these anthologies and creating the community, men also joined. So now we have the Latinas 100 community and the Latinos 100 community. And it's just a beautiful brand, a beautiful group of aspiring writers and authors. And so that's been a lot of fun, just transitioning from my business model, which was doing conferences and coordinating conferences, and a lot of my initiation with the leadership conferences was through the John Maxwell program. So he was, at the time, I'm sure you remember, he was doing the L2L conferences, and you would buy licenses to do those types of conferences, which were a lot of fun. And the pandemic was basically my shift point, where I had to pivot, and I had to pivot quickly. And in the transition of building this community, I also found that there was a lot of other aspiring authors that wanted a white glove service, is what I call it. So I developed a coaching package where I take 25 writers every year, and I give them white glove service from start to finish on how to publish their own personal book, not in an anthology, but their own personal book. And that's been a lot of fun. So this is how I ended up getting into publishing a little over 4 years ago. And it's been just a lot of fun.
And I know it has been. I want to take some time to tell everybody that's joining us, Alasa Sefiu, thank you for joining us all the way from West Africa in Nigeria. So thank you. And he says that he's an aspiring author on leadership topics. So, hey, make sure to connect with Adriana and see where that leads. And talking about being an inspired future author, here is one that you're
my superstar.
And I tell you, she was on Aloha Friday Live last week,
I saw her. I saw her.
and
And I was like, you got on Enrique's show. Yeah. That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah. So she says he rocks, right? So it's so good to see your desire to look at and see Latinas around the world that have a great story, but don't have necessarily the venue or avenue to get that story out. And I'm a believer that God has placed us to be where we need to be because we are the key to someone else's success. And so,
Yes.
as we're looking at Adasa's book, um, uh, the other
Yeah,
books,
Ana Maria Magallon
Ana
also.
Maria, yeah. So she came out with a book. I was trying to think of the title, but she came out with a book. And so these are as well collaborators with me and friends here on the social side that have been able to accomplish a lifelong dream of being an author, have had these stories bottled up inside of them for
Mhm,
Lord knows how long. And you were
mhm.
able to not only accept the call to what you're doing, but also complete that and execute it for someone else so that they can be the author. Now, let's talk a little bit about your military background because everybody sees this publisher side, but they got to really dig in deep to try to get that background. But how did that military service time help you in what you're doing now? And I know John Maxwell, we both share that as fellow coach, speakers, and trainers. But how did that military background help you?
Well, it definitely was the one of the best decisions I ever made was to join the military. Right after high school, I went into a 4-year university. I was at San Jose State University, and when I was there, like many Latinos, first generation Mexicanos, and this is of course my personal story. And in my case, I wasn't prepared for a 4-year university. I probably should have gone to a community college because I didn't have the required knowledge in the community. There wasn't a lot of Latinos back then that I could learn from. So I was at San Jose State for 2 years, and I made a decision um, that I've come to realize throughout the years and through a lot of mentoring and coaching. I made a decision when I was in at that 4-year university that poor kids didn't go to college or didn't get college degrees. So I said, what's the next best thing? Oh, I'm going to go into the military because I have to work and I need food and shelter. Okay. And so I had done the testing, and I qualified to get into the Air Force. And I was so grateful when I ended up in Space Command and working with Lockheed Martin and NASA, and I was monitoring satellites, working with like Lockheed engineers. I mean, I was like a 19-year-old girl exposed to and had access to information and technology that my ancestors would only dream of. And then, of course, I got to travel in the military, like many of us do. I got to see several parts of the world, in particular Asia. And when I decided not to do a career out of the military, I was in the Silicon Valley at the time, and I had gotten an incredible offer from a marketing firm, and I just couldn't refuse. I think I was 24 years old when I got out, and I remember that I had so much confidence because of everything that I had been exposed to in the Air Force, and I believed that I could do anything that I wanted because of what I had seen, because of what I had done and tested, and because of the people that I had surrounded myself with in the military. And I did. I mean, the rest is history. I ended up going into the corporate world, worked for a marketing firm, one of the most, I believe, the most prestigious marketing firms in the Silicon Valley. Worked with some amazing mentors and vice presidents who mentored me. And along the way, ended up working for a mayor in Puerto Rico. I moved to Puerto Rico for a couple of years, worked for Carlos Mendez there, as his marketing director, and then moved to Las Vegas, where then I got into telecommunications, and then went into finance, and always moved up the corporate ladder, and without much of any type of certification other than what I had learned in the military and what I had been exposed to in the military. So I really credit a lot of the confidence that I bring to the table, and a lot of the guts, if you will, experience.
And I love that what you said. Hey, when I decided that that was not a career, right? Because a lot of people think that you have to do the whole 20 and plus and before you can actually get anything out of your service. But I tell you that it's like a bedrock foundation that we get. And then from there, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, hey, I felt like I could do some stuff. Right?
Oh, I did. I'm telling you, I remember talking to my chief master sergeant, and then she's like, "Are you sure you don't want to do the 20? You can make a career." And I was like, "No, I'm an outdoor person. I'm like a tree hugger. I need to be out in nature and stuff." And I worked in a very secure environment.
Oh yeah.
Like many of us did, when space
no
command,
windows.
Windows, a very private, secure place, and so I never saw the daylight.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was very tough on my body. And I was like, well, can I do this for 20 years? But I loved my job. I loved it. But physically, there's just no way that I could do that. And there was like, maybe if I transfer, how you can transfer to different career fields and stuff. And at the time, let me share this with you. At the time, it was in 1999, 2000s, in the Silicon Valley, there was all these opportunities, okay, where you could work anywhere and request a 6-figure income, and you were in, because there was not enough people to fill the jobs. Okay, just imagine. And I remember I always wanted. I said, if I get out, I want to make sure that I'm traveling. And at that time, I was like, well, what company or what career can I have where I can continue to travel? And for me, it was trade shows, to go into work for George P. Johnson. And I remember walking into that office. I had no trade show background. I knew the industry because I had friends who were in the industry, and I knew that they got to travel to really cool places. And I just remember walking in there, of course, with my nice resume and, my nice $100 suit, and knowing that I would get the career, that I would get the job. And, my interview was like 20 minutes, and then with somebody in the office. And then they, I always think like they probably called the VP. And then so she came into to the office to talk to me for like 10 minutes, and they hired me on the spot, not because I had the qualifications, just because I had the confidence, and they saw in me that I knew that I could do the job.
Mm-hmm.
And that I attribute to the military. That's what got me in the door. That it was, and then later, of course, years later, right, you talk to the person that hired you, like, yeah, we thought you were so cocky. You came in here like you had no business interviewing for that. But we knew you were so sharp and you were so confident, and there was nobody in the office like you, and that, the rest is history. So that's why I say I owe a lot of what I've done with my life and a lot of what I've brought to the table in business, because the military proved to me that I could do it, and put me in situations that were sticky situations, as you know. Situations where you have to, you can't sink, you gotta swim, you gotta do it. You're put in situations where you have to prove to yourself that you can do it. And a lot of times, those are moments of decision for you that build character. And man, I do miss it. I miss the military. When I left, I always thought, I'm like, maybe I should go back, but my life just kept getting better and better. And I kept getting more and more opportunities and learning and growing. And so I hold a really, really, soft spot for the military. And it was wonderful. So.
And I love that. Now, Alasa says confidence goes a long way. And there is a difference between confidence and cockiness. A lot of people will confuse them, right? But the one that confuses is the one that doesn't have it. So when you're operating under that, Yeah, when
right?
you're operating under that, you know what it is, and it's not misplaced. So now, if you are a person that's misplacing your confidence and it has gone over to another realm that he shouldn't, then
Mhm.
check yourself, right? Because
Oh yeah.
I think bad things happen from there. But if there's anything that I've gotten throughout my time, even with inside the military, was that your presence just commanded attention, right? And then a lot of people would tell me that your presence, you come in a room and it's like all eyes are there because you command it and without even saying words at times.
Yeah.
And that's not something to, laud yourself on. It's something to actually respect and to
Yes.
honor and to know that that's definitely not something that you can do. That's something that
Yes.
others allow you to do. And
Yes.
just like in leadership, and we both know from the leadership perspective, leading is a gift that
Mhm.
followers give us.
Yes. And it's all about service. And that's another thing about the military is that the military teaches you that you're not there to tell people what to do, depending on your rank, or that you're not there to, show off because, you've passed all the tests and now you've got another stripe. It's because I was enlisted. And it really is about how do you serve other people? How do you help other people? And then how to work in a team. And even from the perspective, like how you iron your uniform, how you polish your shoes. How I remember to the T where you would just have your uniform, and if there was a little string, I mean, it would bother me because I needed to have that like so straight. And you walk into your career wherever it may be in the world, and you're just it's good. You know what I mean? It's like excellence. We're talking about excellence, and so that's one thing that I also received from the military is that they taught me to be excellent at what I do. So that's why a lot of the services that I offer now are all about definitely serving, the aspiring authors, but also bringing excellence to the table and then providing a white glove service where if somebody works with me, they're going to get the experience of writing a book, but they're also going to get the coaching piece because as you and I both know, we were coached by the best. I mean, come on, John, our friend. John is like the master of, leadership coaching and stuff. So and then the military background. So you got the military background, and then you have somebody like John who also, coaches you at a very high level. And when you get to a high level, when you've been coached by the best, you know that it's never about anything else other than serving the person you're working with. It's about how can I bring more value to you? How can I help you? How can I get you to your goals? How can I design my life around being of service? And so that is a huge component that I received from the military and then also through the John Maxwell program years later.
Absolutely. And you mentioned John, and it's such great. I'm so grateful. Now I've been following John since the '90s, right when he
Oh, wow.
was still a pastor. Because
Back
of
in the
my
day.
my pastor background, he was a pastor in San Diego. At the same time, I was going through ministerial training, and it's just such an amazing journey to witness as he was
Mhm,
going through training people in the, I would say, the theological community,
mhm.
and then transitioning to something like this worldwide, right? IMC
Yes.
is like, you go to IMC, it's like going to the United Nations
Mhm. Oh
because
yeah. Did you do the program when he first launched it in Florida, or when did you do the second, or which one did you do?
no, well, I did it. Actually, I did it when the pandemic happened. So
Oh,
it was
okay.
the very first year they ever did it virtually. But then
Oh, okay.
since I'm only 20 minutes away, every time they
Oh,
go down, I just ride over there. But
oh, wow. Okay, yeah, because I did this the first time they launched. I remember I was at a business meeting in Savannah, and I saw the email come through, and then I saw his little promo for him. I'm like, oh my God, I got to do that. And then I waited like that following year. So I was part of the second crew of John Maxwell members. And I remember, flew out to Florida, and then there was only like 500 of us
Look at that.
certified at the time in the world. There was only
Yeah.
500 of us. And I remember sitting at a table, you know how they do, right? You
Mhm.
gotta do your speech,
Do your
and then
speech, yeah.
they give you the table with 10 people and everything. And I remember like I was sitting next to a Tibetan monk, people from Africa, people from the UK, people from Russia. It was like an international thing. And I remember because I did it. This was in my early 30s, and I remember I hadn't written any books yet. I was aspiring to write, my first book, my first leadership book. And I remember sitting at the table in Florida and being totally intimidated because everybody that was sitting on the table was either an international speaker, had published a book or several books, and they were really good at speaking. And I had done some public speaking, but not at this magnitude. And I felt absolutely intimidated. And then when they get to the point where you have to read your speech, your 5 minutes, they give you like the 5 minutes, and you give your topic. I got up, and my topic at that moment, I was doing a speech that was called "Run Your Race." Like, do your own thing. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Just run your race. And I couldn't make it through the first like 30 seconds before I just started bawling and crying. And I thought, I knew the reason why I was crying was because I had aspired for so many years to be at that moment with people like that, with people that had already achieved the dream that I wanted to achieve. It still makes me cry, but I couldn't make it through. So everybody got up from the table, because there's the 500 people, and you sit with 10 people on the table, and everybody got up, and they all went around me, and they put their hands on me, and they just started praying for me. And I thought, this type of stuff only happens in a John Maxwell program, where different people from different religions, from different backgrounds, from different parts of the world will take up arms and completely just pray over me and send me good vibes, whatever you want to call it. But that moment defined me, because I remember leaving that program. And then, the following year I did the coaching where you do one-on-one coaching with all the other coaches. And I was never the same. And then a year later, I wrote my book. I finished my book. And then that book led to another, to another, to another, to another. And so now I'm in publishing. And so those moments, so again, this program from this man who's a legend, who's one, if not the best leadership coach in the world, creates this program where somebody like me can achieve my goals, lives, and dreams, because he believes in the power of serving others, where the message is to serve no matter what you do in your life. If the word begins with service, you're on the right path. If the word begins with you helping somebody without expecting anything in return, you're on the right track.
Absolutely. And folks, if you're watching, and I see several people watching on the different platforms, I got LinkedIn Live here, I got Facebook, I got YouTube is on. And so if you didn't tear a little bit, I don't know what's going on. But you have to go back to those pivotal moments that really were the catalyst to your next move, right? And our trajectory in life is never us. So for those folks that believe that they've done everything to get where they are, shame on you, because you've negated every hand that has ever been part of making your one day a reality. And so, you got to be careful. I do understand that there's a lot of work that we put into a thing, but we are never, ever 100% responsible or the reason why we have gotten where we got, because someone had to step aside in order for us to move in.
Yep.
And so always keep that in mind, that as much as work as you've put in, there are countless others that you will never know about that have done something whether in their favor or not,
Mhm.
to allow you to take that time and space and position. So great,
Mhm.
great story. And you know, I did tear up because because from the Latino perspective, right? Uh, Sometimes if you're not, and I'll say right, sometimes if you're not white, you don't get a chance.
Yeah. And that was the case for me. I was sitting in a room where I didn't see any other Latinos. So for me, it was like I felt, oh, you just even thinking about it, I'm like, I just felt like, oh my God, I have worked so hard for this moment, like to be given this opportunity. And then to also to have a man like John Maxwell and to be able to say, oh, I'm in the John Maxwell, like he's lending you his last name, you know what I mean? Like he's
Mhm.
lending you his reputation. He's lending you and saying, don't worry about it. I got you. I got you. I will open doors because everybody knows John's last name opens doors. And to be given that gift and to know that when I arrived at that moment, it didn't matter that I couldn't remember my 5-minute speech. It mattered that the people that were in that table that stood up and they just placed their hands on me and they're like, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Um, they, that moment was like so big for me. And that's what getting a mentor and getting into coaching programs or getting someone to help you understand how to really view the world, that's an important investment. Whether you pay money for it or you get somebody to help you, mentorship is the key to get you to the next level. So that program got me, like I said, to my first book, because the psyche or the understanding that it was possible was made real for me in that room with those people. And I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about because you've been in the room, right? Where you have to, there's a certain protocol and there's certain things that you do within the group, and you hear certain messages that really do inspire you to just basically raise yourself to the next level, to, like I like to say, it's like es otra
Mhm.
liga, o sea, like this is something different. And then also understanding that in that trajectory for me, in my personal story, was because at that time I was the only Latina that I saw, um, that I was also holding this responsibility for anybody else that would come in, and for anybody else that was Latino. They believed that it wouldn't be possible. Well, it's possible because I did it, girl. Just go to the program, and then surround yourself with people that believe in you and that are willing to help you learn what you need to learn to get to wherever you need to get to, right? So um, so yeah, it was just such a beautiful experience, and it's all compounding, right? So it was like the going to 4-year university, getting into the military, being around people that taught me about excellence, about the way that you press your clothes, the way that you present yourself, the way that even the way that you deliver a message, that those things are important. And the next level, John Maxwell program, and in understanding even at a deeper level that when you go through that process, it's not an easy process because along the way you have to shed relationships that no longer serve you. And that was the most difficult part for me as a Latina, because as a Latina, I'm like, oh, es que I want mi mamá que venga también, mis hermanas. I want everybody in my family to also participate in this, to be part of this joy. But the reality is that it doesn't happen that way. And it was my experience that the more success that I had, or the more that I learned about how to position myself in a way where I could amplify and help others, I had to let go of a lot of relationships that were very close and dear to me. And that was brutal. That has been very, very difficult for me because of how I grew up culturally. But it's possible. And I've learned to do it in a very compassionate way. And the more you grow, the more you know that God has his hands on everything. Don't worry, you don't have to worry about anything. God, there's divine timing for everything. And when I look back at everything that's happened, God has had his hands on everything. And that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. Now, hey, I just want to make sure that everybody understands my comment, right? Because not that I need to explain, it's just that I would like to. There are some industries and circles still today that if you don't If you are a different shade, you just don't get it. Okay. But I am never, ever a believer that that is an obstacle,
Mm,
ever, because you cannot believe in God and believe that there is such a thing as an obstacle.
hmm.
You can't.
Absolutely.
You can't.
Yeah.
So if I could be in the middle of a desert, hit a rock with a staff, and water come out, there are no obstacles. Right? There
There,
are none.
there isn't. No, it's like God will put you in situations that will be difficult, but then, you'll be like, oh no, I can do this. And a lot of times, especially for us who are, I'm first generation Latina, um, we're the ones who are I call myself a bridge. I'm the
Mhm.
bridge between los Americanos y los Latinos. I'm the bridge. And unfortunately, that means that I don't necessarily have a place. I never felt
Right.
really American. I never felt really Mexican. I was always like in the middle. And I've learned to embrace that and say, I'm in the middle because I bridge both. And so, that's why I'm a communicator, because I'm a messenger. I
Yeah.
deliver the message. I translate the message, whatever is needed, whatever I need to do to help, I will do it. And so I learned to embrace that particular way of being. And that, I don't know if you saw the white paper that we just published, but on publishing the state of the publishing in the United States. But it's a great white paper on, and really well researched on, where publishers, big publishing companies like Random House, Simon and Schuster, or Wiley, and all of those, what they're doing to get more Latinos published. Because you look at the numbers, and the reality is that no one's coming for us.
Mhm.
No one's going to come get us
Yeah.
and get our stories. And I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy about not getting Latinos published, or that anybody's blocking us or anything. What I'm saying is that I believe that our non-Latino brothers and sisters don't believe that there's a problem. They don't believe that there's a problem. And when you don't believe that there's a problem, you don't do anything about it.
Right.
So we have to do it. We have to get published on our own. We have to create the companies that are going to get us published. We have to share our own stories, and we have to write the narrative, because we cannot allow anybody else to write our own narrative, because it's just not an accurate narrative, as we've seen in Hollywood movies, as we've seen in a lot of the marketing that's out there, and how we're represented as Latinos. Okay, because I'm not. I am. I continue to look at when I had gone to Washington, D.C. Last year with my son. We went to the Smithsonian, and they had a nice tribute to the Latino culture and stuff. And I'm sorry, but they didn't get it right. There was some things that I saw that I was like, this doesn't represent me. This has nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and why? I don't know who was part of assembling, those setups in that
Right.
art that they did, but I was not happy with it. Anyways, I digress. But there is work to do, and the work is not going to happen from people who are not Latino. The work has to happen with us. We have to do it, because we're the ones who are going through the experiences. So this is where taking the leadership role and really demanding that we are represented accurately needs to happen with us, with our voice, with us speaking. And you can do it through publishing. You can do it through authoring your own book. You can do it because I believe that authoring your own personal book, not an anthology work, but your own personal book is, I'll go as far as saying that it's a political statement. It's a stamp on American society. And I know we're an international project, but I focus more on the Latinos here in the United States because of the lack of representation. So publishing is like a stamp saying, hey, estoy aquí. I'm bilingual, I'm bicultural, and I speak Spanglish, sometimes in Espanol, sometimes in English. And hey, guess what? I'm here. I'm visible. Do not ignore me, because I'm here to share what America is like. I'm American, and I have a story, and you have not shared my story accurately, and you have not represented me accurately. And that needs to come from us. And that's why I publish. That's why I want to get more Latinos to share, because we will be left out of the history books. We will be left out of the narrative if we don't take the leadership role and write and publish and do YouTube videos and really represent who we are.
Absolutely. Now, you remind me of the times that I see TV shows or movies and they have a military person come out and you're like, what is that? The uniform, the medals are all wrong. And you're like, who was the person in charge to
or they have the hat inside inside the cafeteria. I'm like, you can't wear a hat
like,
inside.
Where did you get your guidance from here? Right? So many people that retire or separate that could have helped you. But the same, and I'm always scratching my head like, man, all they had to do was call me and I'd have been there, right? But the same goes with us, right? The same goes with us. And you can't even go that far. And I'll tell you this, I felt that way even among my own people. I felt that way because I speak more English, right, than Spanish, although I'm fluent in all aspects, reading, writing, and speaking, because I did not do it at the local level, right? So if I go to Puerto Rico, my family is happy to see me, but I have felt out of place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I lived in Puerto Rico, right, for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I go to Puerto Rico, and in my ignorance, thinking, I'm from the States, it's going to be just like another state. So I go to Puerto Rico, and I realize that's a completely different ballgame.
It is.
I was like, ¿qué es esto? O sea, esto es como todo mundo is like, it was wonderful. I mean, it was todo mundo bien tranquilo.
Yeah.
I mean, todo mundo was like, like it was like when you retire and it's just like a vacation.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I had left the Silicon Valley, so you could imagine, right? My schedule was like 7 days a week, 10-hour days. And so now I'm like, I come to the isla, and I was like, oh, this is good, But I remember the first time that I had heard someone introduce me in Spanish, because in the United States, in all the careers that I had, it was always Adriana Rosales, which is beautiful. I'm grateful that that's how my name is said in English. But I had never heard the beauty of my name until I went to Puerto Rico, and they're like, aquí está Adriana Rosales, la directora de mercadeo. Oh, that hit me. I was like, that's how it feels. Oh my God, that's how it feels to like be respected. Yep. That's how it feels. I love the sound, and it was so beautiful. The people were so amazing and everything. But at the same time, it's like, es la mexicana. ¿Y por qué está trabajando aquí si ella es como gringa, pero mexicana, And it was, I didn't quite fit in porque no sabía el español muy bien. Right. Y el inglés, obviamente, ese es mi fuerte, ¿no? But I remember the people were beautiful. The experience was amazing. It's that experience I talk about in my very first book, The Corporate Code. But I remember saying to myself, I will always take from Puerto Rico what it felt like to be Latina because of how they treated me. See, because what I realized when I got to the island is that the business owners, the professors, and the people that are really well off in Puerto Rico son mexicanos. Se vienen de México y se van a Puerto Rico porque se habla español. And so it was a level that I had never felt here in the States of total respect for my Latinidad, but at the same time, that disregard because I wasn't fully speaking the language. I wasn't really fully ni Mexicana, ni Americana, so it's a tricky place that we're in, which I know that you have that same, it's a feeling that I don't even know how to describe, but it's a very tough middle. And, at some point we just have to embrace it, right?
Well, what we have to do is develop and
deal with it.
A perspective, right? A perspective that we're not there for them. We're there for whoever it is that is needing us at the moment. And so when you start putting more focus on the lack, you negate the plenty, right? And so that's kind of like a way that I've resolved to look at it. When it's just like a customer, right? When we're serving and we're in a public service, coaching and things like that, there's some that are not for us, and we can't cry about the people that we're not for. We have to focus on the people that we are called to serve and that actually need us at that given time. So,
Mhm.
no,
You have to
I
have
bring
thick
it up
skin.
because sometimes we you know, some people feel like, oh, just because we're in our own community that we feel at home, and sometimes that's not the case.
No,
So, you know, in
no.
Puerto Rico, although I was born in Puerto Rico, I am considered de allá afuera, and that's what
Yeah,
they would say. Él es
yeah.
de allá afuera, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, no, yo soy de aquí adentro.
En México they say, ella es del otro lado, es del otro lado. She's from the other side, and it's like, no, my parents are in Mexico,
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, as a kid, I'm like, I always wanted to fit in, but I didn't know. And so it's a beautiful place to be, but it's not easy, as you know. That's one thing I love about the military is that when I was in the military, I always felt like I belonged.
yep,
Like it was just people from all over the country, we're all serving on a mission and we all have the same goal and we all have the same uniform. And it was like all this camaraderie. Like I miss that, man. It was so neat. And anywhere you travel in the world, it was like you're tight. And it didn't
yep,
matter if you were black, white,
yep,
whatever. It was like you're just tight. And there's some instances where there's racial things or whatever, but at the end of the day, your comrades, they have your back, and I love that.
yeah. It's amazing, an amazing experience that I wish every U.S. citizen had an opportunity to do, whether
Yes.
they served 2 years or 20 or 30,
Mhm.
that they had that opportunity to imagine what that would do to our nation
Oh
if that
yeah,
was the case. We would probably
absolutely.
be different. That's for sure.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
you're giving folks, not only have you had this journey, you had that moment at IMC. You're now publishing, and you've written your books, but now you're giving this opportunity for folks. My wife is one. I am one. Right. That's as one. There's so many. Dr. Z, my friend Miriam. Uh,
Yeah.
so many. Rocky. So we know a lot of folks that have had this opportunity because of what you do. And tell me how that feels. How does that feel to? And I don't want to get you to a point where, but how
They're
does
making
that
sure.
feel to know that you are literally changing people's lives?
I feel really humbled. I feel like in my heart, like I'm so humbled. Like I never would have thought that I would have the privilege to publish like amazing voices. And I welcome it. I'm grateful. I'm appreciative of the opportunity, but I feel so humbled because when I help somebody develop the story or develop their book, it's like humbling because you really get to the heart of people. And every day I'm just so appreciative to God that I'm like, I get to do this for a living. Oh my God, I get to choose who I write with. I get to choose, who comes into the publishing package program. And so I'm humbled. I'm just humbled, and I'm grateful to people like yourself, obviously, that help spread the message, but also to people like John and all the coaches at the John Maxwell program and all the amazing vice presidents that I work for in the corporate world and all the amazing leaders in the military. Like there's we what is that expression or that saying? We stand on the shoulder of giants, and it I sometimes I think about it and I'm like, wow, I get to do this. I get to do this. This is amazing. So I'm humbled. I don't take it lightly. I don't take it lightly that it's a privilege.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I'll tell you that for those that are looking to be authors, if you've ever considered, if you're from the Latino side or not, but if you're from the Latino side and you've always wanted to be, but have not had the opportunity, Adriana is a great source to go to. She mentioned white glove service. I know it. I experienced it, right? my wife is going through that. She's experiencing this is something that's part of my family now, but we can speak of it because we are seeing it. We have seen it. We have experienced it. We know what that looks like on the other end. And so if you are an aspiring author, have not ever had the opportunity, connect with Adriana, have a conversation of what that looks like for you. She'll be able to guide you as she has guided so many others. And I'll tell you, you'll never regret going down that road because at a minimum, whether you go ahead and be courageous enough to go ahead and do it for yourself, you would have added a great human being to your network, and I really appreciate the work you do and everything that you bring to this world. So what now? What now? You're yeah, because you mentioned now you're bringing authors on. I believe
Mhm.
you do about 25 a year. Is that
Yeah,
how?
I only work with in my white glove service is
Mhm.
only 25 authors because that's my bandwidth. That's
Right.
what I want to be able to provide the full experience of from initiating the idea of the book and then walking the writer aspiring author through the process of what it is to publish a book. And then also I go really deep into the psychology of what it means to author a book, and to the program is really, it revolves around helping the author understand that now it's a huge responsibility and it's a huge honor to publish your own personal book, especially because you have mass distribution international, and you're going to touch and influence a lot of people. So there's a portion of my program where I focus a lot on identity shifting to identify yourself as an author. And I believe that's like the best part of the program that we have going on is that there's a lot of people that will publish a book, but they never identify as an author or identify with their message because they just wrote the book because they wanted to sell a lot of copies, which is a fine reason to publish a book. But I work with 25 writers. They want more than that. They want not just to publish a book to generate additional income, but they want to publish a book because they want to make a difference, because they want to make an impact, because they want to change the world for the better. And so that takes a particular type of author, a very specific type of narrative. And so I do all of the coaching with that. Plus, of course, I bring all of my military and John Maxwell experience in the coaching program that I have. So that's what I'm focusing on now, the 25 writers. There's still some slots available for next year. So if anybody is interested, just reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we'll do an intake interview and see if you're the right fit. And then I continue to do the Latinas 100 project, which is a project which is an anthology series. We're doing now volume 4. We're by this year, the end of the year, we'll have the men's version, which is the Latinos 100. And that's my primary focus right now, taking care of my 2 beautiful boys. I have a 6-year-old and a 17-year-old. Well, now he's 7. He just turned 7. Oh my God. So my 2 boys, and then focusing on my publishing business and doing my white glove service.
Outstanding. And what's the future hold for your publishing company? What are you looking at
Well,
going down, here in the future?
yeah. So basically, for the Latinas 100 project, our goal is to publish 1 million Latinos by 2030. And if you know the trajectory of the speed of change and Moore's law and the advancements in AI, especially with the new language models, we've got that in the bag. We're on our way to help 1 million Latinos publish by 2030. Okay. And then that's a huge undertaking. And a lot of Latino writers, anyone who's interested to be part of the Latinas 100 project and Latinos 100 project, join us. And that's what we have going on. And there's a lot of things in terms of like the business piece of it, where I really see that at some point the big publishing houses are going to come looking for us, because they're going to see that we're the fastest growing section of the United States. In terms of like we are carrying the American economy in the United States. as Latinos. For women, we're the fastest growing sector in small business growth. And the big publishing companies will come looking for us. We just have to be ready, and we have to be ready with all our published books, with all our businesses, whether we do corporations or LLCs. And the future looks really bright for us if we take the right steps to build what we need to build now. So I'm a huge believer that there's this curve coming, and it's very, very close in the next 24 months, according to Ray Kurzweiler, who's a futurist and talks about this all the time. There's right now, if you build and you're building your business, you're building you're writing your books, you're creating content, there's going to be that intersection where opportunity meets, where preparation meets opportunity. Okay. And that intersection is really close. For those of you who are building something, who are building businesses to help communities, to help people get employed, or whatever it is that you're building to serve humanity, we're right there. So anybody who's out there who doubts that things are not about to change dramatically in the next 12 months is going to be in for a huge wake-up call. So what lies ahead, to answer your question, is that we're building, and we're definitely going to hit our 1 million Latinos published by 2030.
And what a wonderful goal to have. Folks, if you are interested in becoming an author, reach out to Adriana. This goal is attainable. I mentioned earlier, there are no obstacles, right? And when God is for you, who can be against you? So, folks, Adriana, thank you so much for sharing this time with me on a Friday where we start winding down. Aloha Friday to everybody. I want to make sure that you all know that we are on the hunt for 600 on our YouTube channel. We're about 70 or 65 shy of that mark before the end of the year. I would love to get there. Help me get there by going to DTLW or at DTLW Podcast on YouTube, and you can subscribe to our channel and help us get there. We are also streaming live on Parade Deck. So if you want to follow us on Parade Deck, it is a military focused platform which streams programs. ParadeDeck.com. Follow 731 is my code, and we would love for you to get on there and see all of our programs streaming live. We have been streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Parade Deck. Thank you, all the platforms that are hosting us. Adriana, God bless you. Thank you for all you do. Everybody, Aloha Friday. Mahalo for being with us. And we'll see you next week, Friday, where we have another guest that is doing great things around the world. It has been a great privilege to be not only hosting these events and hosting these shows, but to also bring the wonderful guests that we have around the world. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Enrique. I appreciate you. God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless.